Hello there, lads and ladies. Welcome back to another manga review. Today we are doing the second volume of Konohana Kitan. Today is going to be kind of a fun one, I think, due to the fact that with this Konohana Kitan book, we have an actual deity coming to stay at Konohana, and we also get to see very early on, strangely enough, Satsuki's sister. Hiragi, I believe her name is, and her fellow Shrine Maiden compatriot. Um, with Hiragi, she's kind of airheaded, sort of. She does her own thing. So, with how much Satsuki talks about Hiragi, she kind of makes her out to be this very talented, very beautiful, well versatile dancer for for the karaga. Sorry, not karaga. Kagura dance. If you don't know there's a dance that is known as the karaga dance, which basically is meant to be a dance to. I think it was a way of welcoming the gods or something like that. It was a dance mainly for traditional and ceremonial uses now today. It has particular movements that you would normally teach children at a very young age so that they would learn it during festivals and traditional religious studies and times during festivals and stuff like that. That's the Kagura dance in a certain sense, and that's basically what goes on in this book, where Hiragi, Satsuki's older sister, comes to stay. She comes to see if she can kind of coax Satsuki into the life of a shrine maiden, due to the fact that the partner who she came with couldn't do it because she kind of faked an injury with her foot to try and get Satsuki to do a shrine maiden dance, in which she does do the dance with her older sister. Very good dancer, she can do the dance very well, and that leads to an awful lot of doubt in Yuzu's mind, because Yuzu kind of feels like that they're there to steal Satsuki away from the Konohana hotel complex, and so forth. And it does kind of bring up an awful lot of emotion with Yuzu, because she's like, I want Satsuki to be happy, but I also want, her to stay, basically, in a certain sense. So there's a nice little dynamic between those two with, Yuzu wanting her to stay and wanting her to live her dream, basically. And Satsuki, after the dance, she runs out into the meadow field, just looking up at the stars, really despondent. She kind of feels insecure against being put against her sister when it comes to the Kagura dance, so on and so forth, which is understandable. She's had time to practice it and so on and so forth. And Yuzu kind of is upset because she kind of pushed Satsuki to do the dance because she believed that's what she wanted to do. But again, Satsuki calms her down to try and make her remember that it's just for the job. I'm there to basically keep the visitors of Konohana happy, and that's what they were. They were guests at the place. But Hiragi did the dance for the benefit of a child, because the child, I think, was lost in the hotel trying to find their parents, and to calm her down, they did the Kagura dance for her. And it's revealed later on that through the parents of Satsuki and Hiragi, that Hiragi is not a very hard worker. Well, I wouldn't say hard worker. She was not very bright in a certain sense. So she wouldn't have worked very well at Konohana. So the reason why Satsuki's parents made Satsuki go was because she was more determined, more steadfast. She was more, hardworking, basically, as an individual. So she would have been the perfect, servant to work at Konohana, basically. So in a certain factor, they both were good at their own specific things. Even though Satsuki is a good dancer, Hiragi, couldn't be trustworthy around certain things. So it was kind of good that Satsuki basically ended up at Konohana. That was the first story. I'm not going to be going over other stories, like how I skipped over a couple of important stories in the first volume. I kind of want to leave those in for you guys to find a nice surprise in there, kind of like what I did when I discovered the other volumes, because When I watch the anime, there's an awful lot that they left out, so it leaves more surprises in the manga, which is always pleasant. It's always nice to have those types of pleasant surprises, really. So, another story within the manga, basically, they come across a small doll which apparently was cursed. That cursed doll basically has quite a lip on her, really. You'd think she's a tsundere, but no, she's just small and petulant and rude, but that's understandable. You know, she spent most of her life in a closet. She was made by probably one of the. I kind of want to say it was somewhere in the Meiji era. I would have thought quite an old doll maker made her. She's made out of porcelain, so she's going to have white, clear skin, very black eyes. So what they do, the girls do, they give her a makeover, make her a little bit more modern, basically, in a certain sense, which is kind of a nice little improvement. It kind of makes her a little bit better, rather than wearing the drab kimono and long black hair, which most Japanese culture is based on, really. You have long black hair. I think there's like, I can't remember the name of the mythological creature, but there is a female creature that used her hair, like extended out like tendrils or something to like take civilians away from family members or something like that, or she kidnapped children. I can't quite remember the name of the myth or legend, but yeah, for some reason in Japanese mythology and culture, they have a very big fascination with long hair. Well, it's normally the case with most cultures, really. Like, you know, the longer hair on a woman, the more attractive, really. But that's not usually the case in most cases. But throughout history and mythology, long hair is definitely a sign of beauty and femininity in a certain sense. Well, that's what's written down, basically. You know, to each their own. So with the doll now basically a part of the Konohana staff, basically, as another one of their members, basically, she finds a home with Konohana. You know, it kind of like delves into her past of like how she was never really played with in a certain sense, and that's normally the case with, you know, most kids when we grow up. You know, we always have that one toy or one specific toy that we used to play and grow up with. I used to have an awful lot of toys actually when I was young, but I always loved my train set. I don't know what it was. I loved the look of a train set. And only recently, like maybe 5 or so years back, I finally went on a steam train. It was the first time ever. I was in Devon. It might be on one of my channels where I just did a silly little thing here and there, you know. I think I was taking like the piss out of KSI or something like that. How when he was on a plane or something. No, he was on a train, and that's when he shouted like, you know, "Hey mum," something like that. But yeah. It was fun, you know. It was my first time and probably my only time. Actually, I do need to go and find another steam train. I might want to try that one at King's Cross, I think, or is it the Welsh one? It's the train that was used at King's Cross for Harry Potter. I think that's still running somewhere in Wales. I'll have to look it up actually, because I really would like to, you know, get the whole Harry Potter experience and actually go on that Hogwarts Express. It might not be named that. It might have another name for it, but you know, it's just nice really to have that, you know, under your belt is the one thing you can do, really. Anyway, back to the book. Another interesting piece of this book is that we actually, I was talking about the deity. They actually meet a deity who is the granddaughter of Izanami and Izanagi, I believe. Izanagi and Izanami. They were like one of the daughters, I think, of no, Izanami and Izanagi, I think, were related in one way, shape, or form to Tsukuyomi. I'm not quite sure on that. I'll have to research that up. But yes, I know that their son was a river god. I can't remember his name, unfortunately. And his daughter, or Izanami and Izanagi's granddaughter, was Ayanami, I think. Aya something or other. Basically, she's a bubble god. She was kind of like how it like goes down in the order from like one being the god of storms, the other being the god of the sea, the other being a river god, and then the granddaughter basically being, you know, the goddess of bubbles, basically. It kind of showed in her art with, there's a picture of it actually. This is Izanagi, and I think this is Izanagi, and this is Izanami, I believe. This is the river god, and this is the granddaughter. Basically, she does a thing at the hotel. She arrives like benevolently to the Konohana staff, And Ren's very excited, you know, because she just wants to basically serve a goddess for once, or a god, basically. And the interesting thing with that is she takes a loofah to like wash her back, and all of a sudden she turns into like these millions of little, I want to say like Casper like ghosts, but they're more like small little bubble dolls, basically. You know, these, I don't think I actually have a clear picture of them. No, I can't use that one, it's too small. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. This is what they look like. These small little, this is why I say like Casper, because he kind of had like a bulb head type of thing to him, and that's what these creatures are, basically, like small little bulb head, like little bubble type things, really. It's kind of a horrible thing to call Casper, because that's what Uncle Stretch, I think, used to call Casper. I think they called him like Bulbous Baldhead or something like that. Kind of mean, but you know, as you do. I still cannot find her name. Oh yeah, Awanami. Awanami, yeah, her name is, I believe. Yeah, I honestly cannot remember most of the gods and goddesses' name. Anyway, there's another funny scene where Yuzu is also tasked with helping out. So she's basically chasing this one bubble down the hallway. It turns and then gobbles her up. Literally just looks like Boo, actually. That looks like Boo, oddly enough. That's funny, actually, as well. I've got, I don't think I can show it with my thing like this. I have a female gender bent version of Boo. I believe that's Booette, you know, with the little magic mushroom crown that turned the male characters into, you know, princesses or something like that. I think it all started with the whole Bowsette thing, and then it went on to Booette, and then you had Chompette, and so on and so forth. I kind of like the mushroom one. What was his name? It was Goomba. The Goombette. That one was quite cute, actually. I saw like a painting of like an artwork of that somewhere. Apparently she was like a Sun, like a tsundere, like very Lolita type Sun. I don't know what it was. I kind of like have a fascination with Tiger from Toradora, you know, so whenever I see like a small Sun, I just think, yep, perfect for Tiger there. It immaculately looks like Tiger. Anyway, after Yuzu gets chomped down by the bulbous bulb head bubble, she kind of gets shown a vision, well, not really a vision, like a flashback of the creation of the river god through Izanami and Izanagi. Basically, Izanagi and Izanami created Japan, or something like that. That's how the story goes, is that Izanagi and Izanami were, I think, they had a paintbrush or something like that, a very elongated paintbrush, and they swirled around the smaller islands in the oceanic area, and the rocks, I believe, that made up Japan were, I think, the paint droplets from the paintbrush. I can't quite remember, but the story is similar to that, basically, how Izanami and Izanagi were the basic creators of Japan and the small islands around it, basically. That's why they have those small, well, they're not small, the Amaterasu-style shrine things overhead in every single shrine, basically, because those were technically gates to the god realm, basically, and those are a small little, like little nod to Amaterasu, which, if I'm correct, was the be-all and end-all god of Shinto, or something like that. Again, forgive me, my memory is very like lackluster when it comes to stuff like that. It's been a while since I last studied Japanese mythology, so I do need to throw myself back into that because it's very interesting. Some of their mythological stories are fantastic. But yeah, anyway, the reason why she basically turned into bubbles was because she's going through a rebirth, and that's what Kiri has to explain to Yuzu when she haphazardly falls onto Satsuki as she comes out of the bubble, completely crushing Satsuki underneath Yuzu's weight for some reason. Don't know why she says she's heavy. She's not even like 4'5", surprisingly. Anyway, so the whole point of the rebirth was because she's immortal, you know, she has to continuously like redo a rebirth of cycles. Basically, it's the same with snakes. As they grow older, they have to come out of a skin. It's the same with this bubble goddess. It kind of ends abruptly like that, although the stories are not in chronological order, as I explained. Like the first one with Hiragi and Satsuki, that was more towards the end because that's a more tension-filled one. It's more emotional, so it builds it up through the stages. So they'll normally throw that at the end, and she tries to Satsuki tries to basically be this very overbearing character and very steadfast and very disciplined. But even then, she still, shows a bit of kindness here and there, especially to her sister. She loves her sister, as you do really, with some people who barely show love. They show it in their own way in a certain sense, and that's what Satsuki does really with Hiragi. Even though it's not very out there. And I'll tell one more story from this book. It's called Little Satsuki. Little Satsuki. This was probably one of my favorite episodes, I think, from the anime. The story goes is that there's like this running gag with like a mouse that runs through the village with wood. He's basically doing construction work for the smaller animals within this like city, and they give him like some growth medicine, which basically turns him to like a normal sized person. And he's roughly about Yuzu's height or something like that. He's basically there to enjoy the party. There's even like a little gag where all the cats are like staring at him, like daggered eyes and all that, And he said it won't be a worry until I have my shrinking medicine, because there's a medicine man who applied him with that stuff. Satsuki makes the unfortunate mistake of eating one of the shrinking medicines, practically just eats them all up, and she turns roughly the size of a mouse, probably a little bit bigger due to the fact that Satsuki's probably the second tallest fox girl in Konohana. But there was quite a cute scene where she's wearing like this very frilly dress, and the doll is like poking her head around the corner like in outright freaking jealousy because she's got like a very pretty dress on. I don't know why she's like jealous, because honestly the doll looks fine in the dress, and as does Satsuki, but I don't know, I feel like I would have preferred her in a kimono. There's something about girls in kimonos that sparks it with me really, because maybe it's the foreign thing, like how Asian gents who get tats, they will tend to have like their name or a specific thing like in English, kind of like how how Brits and Americans and Westerners normally have kanji written on them, or Chinese writing basically in a certain sense, because we find it interesting. It's a beautiful calligraphical art form, kind of like how they'll probably think that that the English language is unique because it's not taught in their native tongue basically. It's the same thing really with my knuckles. These are Elder Norse writing. That's basically what it writes out for Wolfsong. I studied that to make sure that those were correct. And the funny thing with that is that they make up two different sentences if I put the fingers in the wrong order, basically, which is quite funny. But it's just the interesting little culture thing there. So what Satsuki does is basically, because she can't do the work on her own, she has to go around with Natsumi. Natsumi basically can't stand having Satsuki in her ear, so she just like throws her off to Yuzu. Perfect match. Satsuki and Yuzu go well together. Satsuki's very demanding and very clear cut, whilst Yuzu's still, fumbling along the way. She's learning to be a better worker, and Satsuki does let her know this, especially after like meeting this one villager who goes across the mountains to come here, and she noticed she was walking through the mountain because of the dirt on her feet, the walking stick, and the sores on the back of her ankles. So Satsuki basically had the idea to make the small little side of Konohana looking towards the mountains, with trees arching over the pathway, with a nice little spring to the right. When the sun hits it, like in the autumn time, it looks absolutely gorgeous. Like they actually show this off in the anime, I believe, with some gorgeous oranges and yellows, and like the blue hitting off of the water as the light kind of like fades from the right to the left, basically, of the picture. You kind of need to watch the anime to understand what I'm talking about, but it's really gorgeous, and it's not something that can be like shown in the manga, but it is definitely gorgeous in the anime, and I really can't thank the animators anymore for like making that scene beautiful, because that's really what made Satsuki kind of like look at Yuzu in a different light, really, because she knows that Yuzu is very, kind of a novice basically, but she does know that she is trying her best, and she's a really hard and a very hard worker and a very loving person, really, at the end of the day. And that's kind of why I love Yuzu as well, really. Yuzu and Satsuki are probably my favourite characters, really, throughout the whole series. Yuzu was definitely my favourite when I first met her because she's a very shy and very lovely young lady and very, very gorgeous. Not gonna lie, very gorgeous. So that is the second volume of Konohana Kitan. I'll probably do the third volume maybe sometime in 2 or 3 days' time. I kind of wanted to bring this out a little bit early, because you guys have been waiting for quite a long time for an awful lot of my content, and I don't want it to be like a week basis thing, really, because I need to get through like 9 of these. I'm trying to see if I can find the 10th volume, but for some reason it's like sold out or it's just out of stock for temporary measures. After the third volume next time, I will go back to Comic-Con Communicate, because I believe the third volume will be up in like a couple of days' time or so. I want to watch that. And I also want to reevaluate some of the manga series, because I still don't know certain members' names. I mean, I know the story, but it's just trying to remember the names so it makes like me conversing this to you more smoothly. So it just makes an all-round better video for you guys. Alright, so with that, I thank you all ever so much for watching, and as always, have a wonderful, beautiful, fantastic day. Take care, my friends.